The United States has cautioned Canada against backing out of its purchase of American-made F-35 fighter jets, warning it of potential fallout if the deal is scrapped. And this comes as Ottawa's review of the multi-billion-dollar agreement is expected to reach a final decision by September 22nd. In fact, Canada's Defence Minister has promised that the review will be made public, after which it will be forwarded to the Prime Minister Mark Carney for the final decision.
What happens when a nation dares to defy its most powerful ally? Imagine being caught between your biggest security partner and your own fragile sense of independence. That's exactly where Canada finds itself right now. The United States has drawn a hard red line. If Canada abandons the F-35 fighter jet deal, there will be consequences, serious ones. And this isn't just about airplanes. It's about trust, credibility, and the survival of Canada's military itself. Because when Donald Trump slammed the door, Ottawa suddenly realized something terrifying. Without America's shield, Canada's skies might already be defenseless. But the story doesn't end with a simple warning. What unfolded behind closed doors was a struggle over power, pride, and politics. And the fallout could reshape North America's security forever. The tension began when Washington sent Ottawa a blunt message: cancel the F-35 program and prepare for fallout. There was no sugarcoating it, no friendly diplomatic language, just a cold reality check. America holds the cards, and Canada knows it. Why such pressure? Because North America's defense relies on seamless cooperation through NORAD. Both the United States and Canada must fly the same aircraft, train together, and operate as one. Break that chain, and the entire defense shield cracks open. For Washington, the math is simple. Interoperability isn't optional. It's survival. But for Canada, this warning landed like a thunderclap. Ottawa had been dragging its feet, caught in endless reviews and political posturing. Mark Carney's government wanted to look tough, to show independence by reconsidering the fighter jet deal. But instead of strength, it exposed weakness. Because in the eyes of Washington, hesitation looked less like sovereignty and more like betrayal. And that's why the atmosphere in Ottawa suddenly felt like a pressure cooker. Allies don't like to be warned, but this was no ordinary warning. It was a warning from America, the partner that essentially keeps Canada's skies safe. And yet, instead of moving quickly, Carney doubled down. Mark Carney announced a review of the $19 billion deal for 88 US-built F-35 jets. To many Canadians, it sounded like prudence. To the military brass, it was an insult. After all, Canada's own generals had lobbied hard for the F-35. They knew the plane inside and out, had trained with American pilots, and understood its role in keeping NORAD airtight. So why stall? Why risk weakening Canada's defenses? Carney framed it as protecting Canadian sovereignty, resisting Trump's pressure. He wanted to prove Ottawa wouldn't simply roll over to Washington's demands. But sovereignty is a delicate word in geopolitics. Too often, it masks indecision, and indecision in defense can cost lives. Even worse, Carney wasn't just questioning the deal. He was hinting at alternatives. And that's when things started to spiral. Donald Trump had already made his stance crystal clear. Allies that don't carry their weight would face consequences. During his presidency, he renegotiated NAFTA, forced NATO members to increase defense spending, and demanded respect at every negotiating table. Trump didn't see deals as suggestions. He saw them as binding contracts. And when it came to military power, he believed hesitation was weakness. That's why Trump's words carried weight in Ottawa. When he warned Canada about backing away from the F-35, it wasn't political theater. It was a promise. His record showed he meant every word. He didn't tolerate freeloaders. He didn't tolerate allies who played games with America's security. And suddenly, Carney's gamble looked even riskier. Because he wasn't just stalling a fighter jet deal. He was poking the bear. And this bear had claws. Enter Sweden's Gripen fighter jet. Sleek, cheaper, and advertised as perfect for Arctic missions, it became the darling of Carney's review. Advocates argued the Gripen was tailor-made for Canada's rugged northern runways. On paper, it seemed like a bold alternative. But behind the marketing, critics saw a dangerous gamble. Compared to the F-35, the Gripen was second tier, untested against top adversaries like Russia and China. Sure, it could handle cold weather landings, but could it deter Moscow's bombers or Beijing's long-range threats? For Washington, the answer was obvious: no. The Gripen wasn't just a different choice, it was a weaker one. And if Canada jumped ship, it would be sending a clear message to the world. It preferred symbolism over strength. The danger wasn't just in picking the wrong plane. It was in what that choice represented. Abandoning the F-35 meant abandoning the shared defense structure that North America had built for decades, and America was not prepared to tolerate that. The warnings from Washington escalated. U.S. officials hinted that even NORAD, the very backbone of continental defense, could be at risk. If Canada chose the Gripen, its planes would no longer be interoperable with U.S. forces. That meant joint missions would falter, training would break down, the alliance would weaken. At the same time, Lockheed Martin, America's largest defense contractor, sweetened the pot. They offered Canada new jobs, advanced technology, and industrial benefits, but only if Ottawa stuck with the F-35. It was a carrot-and-stick approach: security and jobs if you comply, isolation if you don't. Meanwhile, Canada's current fleet of CF-18s was aging into irrelevance. First deployed in the early 1980s, these jets were older than many of the pilots flying them. Military analysts warned they were museum pieces, incapable of matching modern threats like hypersonic drones or stealth bombers. Every delay meant another year of flying relics, and every year meant Canada grew weaker in the skies. And yet, Carney's review dragged on, as if time were not already running out. This was the heart of the crisis. Carney's government framed the review as a bold step toward independence, but independence without strength is a mirage. Without American backing, Canada's military was a paper tiger. Without NORAD's shield, Canada's skies were open to intrusion. The irony was painful. By chasing the illusion of sovereignty, Ottawa risked surrendering the very security that made sovereignty possible. Russia was pushing deeper into the Arctic. China was testing American resolve in the Pacific. And here was Canada, dithering over jets while flying aircraft older than the Cold War itself. The military saw the danger. Analysts saw the danger. Washington saw the danger. But Carney seemed determined to prove a political point, even if it meant putting his country at risk. In the end, the question wasn't just about planes. It was about credibility. Could Canada still be trusted as an ally? Could it defend its own skies? Or was it about to gamble everything for a fragile illusion of independence? The F-35 deal has become a symbol of something much larger. It's not just about jets. It's about whether Canada wants to be seen as a serious partner or a hesitant neighbor hiding behind reviews and political games. Donald Trump's warning wasn't empty. It was a declaration that in the new world order, hesitation has consequences. Strength earns respect. Weakness earns isolation. For Canada, the clock is ticking. Stick with the F-35, and it secures its skies and credibility. Walk away, and it risks military collapse, isolation from NORAD, and exposure to adversaries that won't hesitate to exploit weakness. And so the choice stands: security or sovereignty, strength or symbolism. One path leads to safety, the other to collapse. The question now is simple, but haunting. Will Canada secure its future, or gamble it all away?